stress that exercise
Yep.
isn't just okay with high blood pressure. It's actually really important.
Yeah.
It's almost essential.
It seems a bit counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
You think high blood pressure, maybe I should stay still, but actually these sources are saying get moving.
Yeah.
Why is that so important?
Well, I mean, your heart's a muscle too, right? And like any other muscle in your body, it needs a good workout. They all agree that exercise can help you manage your blood pressure, but I thought this was really interesting. The National Kidney Federation, they actually say that for some people, regular exercise can be just as effective as medication at keeping those numbers in check.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You don't think about exercise being as powerful as that sometimes, do you?
No.
It really shows how important a good workout routine can be. But presumably, if you've got high blood pressure, it's not just a case of putting your trainers on and going for a run, is it?
No, exactly.
There are things you need to think about.
Livy and the NKF were, again, very specific about blood pressure ranges that are safe for exercise.
Yeah.
So before you even think about what kind of workout you're going to do, you really do need to know your numbers.
So it's like checking the weather forecast for your heart before you head out, right?
Yeah, I like that.
So can you tell us a bit more about these safe ranges and what they actually mean? Because I think people might not be too clear on that.
Yeah, so we're talking about the two numbers you see when you get your blood pressure checked, right? So the top number, that's your systolic pressure, and that measures the force of blood against your artery walls when your heart beats. And then the bottom number, that's your diastolic pressure, and that measures the force when your heart's resting between beats.
Okay.
So generally speaking, if your blood pressure falls between 60 millimeters of mercury and 1,799 millimeters of mercury, you're probably good to start exercising.
Okay.
Sure.
I bet you're going to say talk to your doctor.
Well, yeah.
Of course.
Because, everybody is different, and what's safe for one person might not be safe for another. So your doctor can kind of factor in your own personal health history, any medications are on, and either give you the green light or maybe suggest, a more tailored approach.
Yeah, it's all about having that personalized plan, isn't it?
Yeah.
So assuming we've had the all clear from the doctor, we know our numbers, what kinds of exercises are we talking about here? I imagine there were some clear winners in terms of what these sources are recommending.
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise that aerobic exercise came out on top.
Okay.
So, running, cycling, swimming, anything that's really going to get that heart rate up and make you breathe a bit harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the classics.
Classic cardio.
Yeah. But one thing I did like about Libby's take on this was that they really stressed that it's important to find an activity that you actually enjoy.
Yeah.
Because it's all well and good to say, go for a run, but if you hate running,
Exactly.
it's not going to last, is it?
No.
Consistency is key, isn't it? And you're much more likely to stick to a routine if you're actually enjoying what you're doing. So that might be dancing, it might be swimming, it could even just be a really brisk walk in nature. It doesn't have to be, And also, I think sometimes the thought of a 30-minute workout can feel a bit overwhelming. And the NKF had this really good tip, which is break it down.
Oh, okay. Tell me about breaking it down. What does that look like?
They suggested sort of 10-minute chunks throughout the day, which feels a lot more doable, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Life gets busy, but if you can just squeeze in a few short bursts of activity, that's got to be better than nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Takes the pressure off a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now, we've got to talk about weightlifting.
Yeah.
Because that feels like the big one, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is that a no-go area with high blood pressure or?
It's not a complete no-go, but Livy and Medical News Today both urged a lot of caution, particularly when it comes to heavy lifting.
Okay.
And I think it's because it's about understanding the way that different types of exercise actually impact your body and your blood pressure in particular.
Right. So what kind of things should people bear in mind if they are thinking about doing strength training alongside high blood pressure? What are the things they need to be careful of?
I think it's about being mindful, being controlled. So starting with lighter weights and then building up gradually as you get stronger. It's not about becoming a power lifter overnight. It's about challenging your muscles safely and effectively. And, just like any exercise, it's paying really close attention to how your body responds.
So that's a theme that's coming out, isn't it? Listening to your body.
Yeah.
We need to do a deep dive on that.
Yeah, definitely. It's absolutely crucial. And it's something that all of the sources emphasized. Your body is incredibly intuitive, and it will tell you when it's had enough. You just need to make sure you're listening.
Speaking of listening to your body,
Hmm.
what are some warning signs that you might be pushing too hard and you need to kind of take a step back?
Yeah, that's such a good question because it's easy to get caught up in the moment, but, ignoring those signs can actually be a bit risky. Um, all three sources, again, Livy, NKF, and WebMD, they all give a really clear list of red flags. So we're talking chest pain, dizziness, any shortness of breath. Those are the big ones. That's basically your body hitting the pause button, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like, okay, we need to stop for a minute. And it's not just knowing when to stop, but it's also thinking about easing into and out of exercise safely.
Hmm.
And that's where warming up and cooling down come in.
Right.
WebMD, they were big on this, especially for people with high blood pressure. It's that thing, isn't it? Like stretching before and after a run. It's about helping your heart kind of transition gradually and minimizing any strain.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Mhm.
You know what I'm really struck by through all of this is it's easy to think, right, I got to get to the gym, I got to do my 30 minutes, I got to do this. But actually, a lot of these sources, particularly Livy and the NKF, were really hot on the fact that it's not just about structured workouts.
Mhm.
It's about increasing that kind of general everyday movement as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And they were calling it lifestyle activity. So it's those small changes that can actually make a big difference.
Yeah.
Like parking further away from the supermarket, taking the stairs instead of the lift, even just, standing up and moving around more if you've got a desk job.
It's like fitting in those fitness snacks throughout the day, isn't it?
Yeah, I like that. Little and often. And I thought the NKF made a really good point about the dangers of a sedentary lifestyle, even if you do exercise regularly.
Right.
They were saying, think of your arteries like highways. So sitting for long periods is like creating a traffic jam. Even if you go for a run later, it's still important to try and keep things moving throughout the day.
Yeah, that's such a good analogy. So even if you do your 30-minute workout, it's still really important to break up those long periods of sitting throughout the day as well.
Exactly. Set a timer, get up, have a walk around, do some stretches, whatever works for you. Now, we've talked about aerobic exercise, but I thought it would be good to maybe dive into a bit more detail about why this type of exercise in particular is so good for people with high blood pressure.
Yes, let's break that down a little bit.
Yeah.
What is it about this kind of exercise that's so beneficial?
Well, I think you can think of aerobic exercise as like, the ultimate heart healthy activity. It really gets your blood pumping, it strengthens your circulatory system, and crucially, it can help to lower those blood pressure numbers.
Okay.
So, as we said, running, cycling, swimming, brisk walking, dancing, the key thing is finding something you enjoy that you're going to stick with.
It's like finding your heart's rhythm on the dance floor, isn't it?
I like that. It is. It's about finding that sustainable groove that brings you joy and keeps you coming back for more.
Yeah. Now, what about strength training? We've talked about the need for caution with heavy lifting, but are there things that people can do to make sure they are strength training safely and effectively?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's about starting slowly and gradually increasing that intensity. So, begin with lighter weights, focus on proper form, and then as you get stronger, you can gradually increase the weight or the resistance. You mentioned yoga earlier, and actually, that can be a really fantastic way to build strength and flexibility.
Yeah. Are there things that people with high blood pressure should bear in mind, even with yoga?
Yeah, definitely. I think choosing the right style is key. So, some forms of yoga, like Bikram yoga, hot yoga, they can be quite intense and they might not be suitable. Whereas gentler styles like hatha yoga or restorative yoga are often a better choice.
Hmm.
It's also important to avoid any poses that involve inversions or putting pressure on your head or neck.
Okay.
And I think just generally, as with any exercise, listen to your body. Don't be afraid to modify poses or take breaks as needed.
It's all about finding that balance, isn't it, between effort and ease. Speaking of ease, I was going to say, what about the recovery aspect of it? We've talked about cooling down, but is there anything else people should be doing post-workout to really kind of support their bodies?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think, recovery is just as important as the workout itself.
Yeah.
Proper hydration is key. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water throughout the day, especially before, during, and after exercise.
It's so easily forgotten, isn't it? Water.
It is, yeah. We're always rushing around, aren't we? But yeah, and also don't underestimate the power of a good night's sleep.
Oh, yeah.
When you're well rested, your body can repair and rebuild itself much more effectively.
Yeah, it's amazing how much these healthy habits are all interlinked, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's go back to listening to your body for a moment. You mentioned some warning signs there,
Hmm.
but are there other ways that people can become more attuned to those more subtle cues from their body?
Yeah, definitely. I think mindfulness practices like meditation can be really helpful in developing that mind-body connection.
Right.
Even just taking a few moments each day to sit quietly and tune into your breath can really help to increase your awareness of how your body's feeling.
It's like hitting the refresh button on your awareness, isn't it?
Exactly. And then as you become more attuned to those signals, you're much better equipped to make choices that are really supportive for your overall well-being.
Absolutely. This has been so interesting. I feel like we've covered so much ground. But if we had to distill it down, what would you say? Just a couple of key takeaways, the most important things for our listener to remember.
Oh, that's a good question. I think if I had to choose just a few, I'd say first and foremost, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
So understanding how exercise impacts your blood pressure,
Mhm.
knowing those safe ranges, that's crucial.
Yeah,
Secondly, listen to your body. It really is your wisest guide.
it is.
And then finally, I'd say find joy in movement. Exercise shouldn't feel like a chore. Explore different activities. Find what lights you up.
Yes, love that. Now, before we wrap up completely, I wanted to touch on something else because I think it's something that people with high blood pressure often get, well, I say often. I don't know if it's often, but it can be a source of anxiety, which is those moments when your blood pressure maybe does creep up a little bit
Right.
despite your best efforts. How do you deal with that mentally?
Yeah, that's a really good point because it's easy to feel, frustrated or discouraged when that happens.
Yeah.
But I think the important thing to remember is it's not a sign of failure.
Yeah.
Sometimes life throws you curveballs, and your body's going to react to that.
Yeah.
Whether it's stress, lack of sleep, certain medications, even the weather can cause fluctuations in your blood pressure.
Okay.
So I think the key is not to panic and just focus on what you can control. So, stick to those healthy habits, stay hydrated, try to manage your stress levels, and communicate openly with your healthcare provider.
So it's about that ongoing dialogue with your doctor, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. They're your partner in this journey, and they can help you to make adjustments to your plan as needed.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing to remember is, managing high blood pressure, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
It's about finding that sustainable pace, isn't it?
exactly. That works for you. And I think celebrate every step of the way. Don't beat yourself up if you have a day where, things don't go to plan.
Yeah.
It's about that bigger picture.
It's so easy to get caught up in the numbers, but actually it's about progress, not perfection, isn't it?
100%. And one of the things that really came across from all of these sources was this real emphasis on empowerment, I felt.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Right.
Not being told what to do, but being given the information to make the choices for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's not about being given a list of rules. It's about being empowered to be the CEO of your own health, if that makes sense.
I
Right.
love that. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And, to the listener out there, if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed by all of this, just remember, you've got this.
Yeah.
You have the power to make those changes. And we're here to support you and cheer you on every step of the way. What's one small step, maybe, that someone listening could take today to kind of prioritize their health and well-being?
Oh, that's a lovely question. I think as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. We've talked about exercise as a way to kind of manage high blood pressure, but it is so much more than that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about connecting with your body. It's about kind of tapping into your inner strength, and it's about embracing the joy of movement.
It's like unlocking a superpower you didn't know you had.
Yes, exactly. And with every step that you take, every bead of sweat, you're not just improving your physical health, but you're expanding your potential as well. So get out there, explore, experiment, but most importantly, have fun.
What a great note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into exercise and high blood pressure. We hope you found it useful and feel ready to get out there
It was a pleasure.
and embrace a healthier, more
Yeah,
active you.
yeah, absolutely. Keep those hearts pumping.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.